Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from Innova.Buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the Innova.Buzz podcast today from New Jersey in the USA, Aya Kikimova. Aya is the founder and CEO of Leap Engine, a digital marketing agency that translates elite Fortune 500 level strategies into practical data-driven systems for startups and small business. Now, Aya is a former Microsoft Platinum Club award winner who managed over $50 million in ad spend before bootstrapping her own agency during the pandemic years and also whilst navigating the experience of being a new mum. So lots of stuff on your plate there. Welcome to the Innova.Buzz podcast, Aya. It's a great privilege to have you as my guest.
Thank you so much, Jürgen. It's so nice to be here.
I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Now, before we dive in, just a quick note for our listeners, especially if you're new to the Innova.Buzz podcast. We like to have a practical conversation with amazing guests like Aya to explore how they create impact and build human connection in their work. I like to unpack their knowledge, their attitudes, their values. The conversation could go anywhere. It's not really a planned conversation, and we let the flow run where we see value and where we both get excited. So think of this as a seat at the table where you and Aya and I, we're all learning together. At the end, I'll wrap up with our signature buzz round, which is 3 rapid fire questions that I ask of every guest, and all of the links and the notes will be in the show notes at the end, so you can revisit anything that sparks your interest again later. Now, I was so struck by the data and the feeling in your story, the two things that sort of came together and how you navigated away from so many challenges, from being an immigrant, learning to type, and then fixing a business model that was losing money, your own one when you first started out, and you were kind of feeling your way a little bit. And I like how you've processed these problems and built powerful systems around those and moving towards your goals. So share a little bit with us what drives you in this mission and what impact you aim to make in the world today.
So what drives me in this mission is really just being a good person and also being ethical marketing and helping real people. I've always been part of small businesses. My family came from a small business background. My grandma had a deli, and I just remember running around behind the counter as a kid selling bread and candy and whatnot. And also my mom, who's built a business from scratch in real estate. So I always knew that I would come back to small businesses. And this is sort of my venture to do that. After 15 years in corporate working with really, really large companies that are global or national, I decided to come back to the small business owner to work with them directly to help them out. The other thing that really drives me, of course, is my daughter, who is just such an innocent little child. She'll be 3, but just seeing the world through her eyes, which means that it's all amazing and beautiful and just it's just full of wonder. And I think I'm always I'm learning from her to adopt that sort of view and look at the world with those new set of eyes of learning myself because the world is constantly changing.
Yeah, 3 years, that's the age where they're asking why a lot, isn't it?
We haven't seen
And,
that yet, the why
oh, okay.
come yet, but I think it's coming soon.
Yeah. That curiosity. I'm always fascinated to see kids at that age and that insatiable curiosity and that they're so excited to learn. And I always reflect back and think, where is it that's trained out of us through the school system? And,
Yeah.
how do we as adults kind of reframe our thinking and start doing more of that?
I think that's the key, right? We sort of lose that wonder. because the more we learn, I think the perception is the more we know. But I feel it's the opposite. The more we
Hmm.
when learn, the more we have to keep learning and knowing, because it's just such a different world. Even if you look back 5 years ago, did you ever think that we would have AI so pervasively everywhere? Probably not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? The what the changes that we've observed. I mean, I think back to when I started my career and the changes there, because when I started my career, it was well, I started in photography, so film photography was digital photography wasn't
Yeah.
in the mainstream at all. It was around, but pretty much just for military uses, and then that's where I started my career. So I experienced a big shift there, and then of course, in the early days of my career as well was when PCs came to the forefront. So I saw the PC develop, and then the internet, and now of course we've got AI.
I know. I think it's just so crazy how technology has shifted and enabled and empowered many people. I mean, it has made things for the better, but also there's the dark side of technology, of the jobs lost and people sort of needing to learn new skills to find themselves in a new place. I see a lot of this in my husband's industry, who's in a video production and audio production. And I feel in their industry, the AI advances are so fast. And, some of the jobs are literally being removed and done by AI. And in coding,
Hmm.
well, I know a friend of mine, she's a startup founder for a SaaS company, and they literally had to fire a third of their developer workforce because now AI can do all those things. So it's a little bit interesting and scary at the same time, but I'm just curious where that will take us, especially looking at my daughter of like, okay, when she is of working age, what kind of jobs are going to be available for her at the time? Maybe a roofing job
Hmm.
or something like
Yeah, well, there's a
physical.
couple of questions that raises for me. One is a favourite question of mine, but I'll just reflect back on a conversation I had yesterday on the podcast, and it was around that we're experiencing the advent, if you like, of mainstream AI that we all get to use now, and we're learning how to use it, and we're experiencing how it improves as we're learning to use it. And so at some point going forward, we've we've built sort of skills through that experience, and it's sort of like going back to the days when the internet started. And I know I sort of jumped into it very early, and it was a lot of clumsy efforts, but learning as I went. And then as I built that experience, I saw the changes happening, and I thought, oh, this is something I've been struggling with. Now I can do this much more easily. And whereas people that like your daughter, for example, that is growing up where this stuff has always been there. They don't know it any different, and they don't develop that experience of learning how to meet the challenges or so on. I mean, there'll be other challenges going forwards, obviously, but how do you see the approach of kind of the people that are now growing up and seeing this as the normal differ from the way we approach it, for example?
I think it's really shifting culture because somebody once said that people are becoming dumber. A while ago in my lifetime and in my adult lifetime, I may look younger, I'm not, I'm almost 40. We used to print out directions to go to places. I remember
Yeah.
using MapQuest before the days of Google Maps, and we would literally print them out and follow as we drive. Now I feel like if I don't have my phone, I am lost even in a place that I'm somewhat familiar. And I don't know, I feel that we rely on technology so much. What happens if one day, for whatever reason, the technology just shuts down and we don't have access, like we're gonna have to go back to yellow pages
Mm.
and landline phones, if we even if we have those. So I think for the new generation, I am a little bit worried because I do think that some of the essential skills of just grinding through the pain of learning is disappearing. Like they can just pull out a calculator and figure it out. They can just look at the Google Maps and figure it out. They can go to ChatGPT and start getting answers. And a lot of your human processing of your own answers, like, hey, I want to research this myself. For myself, I need to know, is this true? I don't want somebody else making that decision for me. But I think that particular skill of discernment is being removed these days because kids just, oh, I just trust ChatGPT. Even sometimes ChatGPT can hallucinate, right? Make up stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the risk. But for my daughter specifically, we are trying to have no screen time. We are definitely trying to maintain the educational kind of background that we had, which is write on paper, figure out one plus one. Like, how do you do that in your own head before you use some tools that make it too easy for you? So I believe that's key. And also, um, somewhere I was listening, I heard that basically in the age of AI, now that all the skills may be replaced and may supplement or what have you, we don't know what's going to happen. But what's going to be more important is to have that emotional intelligence and to be able to have a resilience of, because it's going to be such a constantly changing environment, to be able to learn and be like, I'm resilient to this change, I'm adaptable, I can do anything, I can learn anything. So that, I think that skill is key.
Yeah, well, that was the other question that was on my mind there, which is what are the skills we all need to be cultivating, expanding on, or perhaps adding to our skill set, and certainly for the younger generation, what are the skills they should be focusing on acquiring as we kind of move further and further into this world of AI. And as you mentioned earlier, a lot of jobs are disappearing because AI can do them.
I think that understanding how AI operates, so still coding skills are going to be key. But even that, obviously, you don't have to code anymore with AI will do it for you, but still understanding what AI did so that you can go ahead and fix it will be key. Obviously, there's some other key skills that need to happen. I think that we still need to know your basic engineering, your physics and biology, especially cultivating, the land and everything. I really think that we need to come back. We like need to take or as a humanity, a big step back and learn the basics of living in case AI shuts down, in case, the technology fails us, which it does. I mean, it fails frequently. Like recently, AWS, there
Yeah,
was an
yeah, that's
outage, right? I mean, what happens if Google kind of has an outage? Microsoft, I don't know. We have too much reliance on technology, and we underestimate or sort of overestimate the value of AI and underestimate the value of human skill and capability. And I think we need to get back to empowering humans to be able to be independent of these technologies should they fail, while understanding how well they work and putting them also in safe environments. Because right now, the other situation with AI is that it's starting to develop a mind of its own. There was an experiment where AI, they were literally, experimenting and figuring out what AI will do in a situation where its existence would be threatened. So they said, if so and so happens, we will have to delete you, erase you. And so AI, they noticed, would lie. just to preserve its existence. But that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy because if AI is lying consciously, meaning on purpose to preserve itself, then that poses significant questions of like, can we trust AI? And I
Hmm.
think that's where we're going to have to balance our trust in and control, and where we have that control right now. Even the fathers of AI, the people who know AI intimately from the 70s when it first originated, they themselves will say that they don't even know how AI like evolves specifically, as in like, the specific decision tree that it takes. So giving access to the worldwide net, the internet, is too much power for AI, especially if it's unchecked.
I think, I mean, one of the things a lot of conversation or a lot of discussion forgets is that the current evolution of AI are basically large language models that's taking a heap of information that's on the internet and coalescing that information based on a question or a guideline or an instruction that it's given, which is the prompt that you hear people talk about. And so I say, well, first of all of the information it's sourcing can't be correct.
Yep.
Some of it is inaccurate information. Some of it is intentionally false information that somebody's posted that's just outright a lie. The AI is a machine. It's not pulling information and saying, well, that's a lie and that's true. So it doesn't discern. So it's saying, hey, that information matches what you asked me. That information matches what you asked me. I'll pull it all together and I'll give you an output. Now, if it's taken a lot of wrong information, that's come from people. So it's kind of like I say, well, if we're all behaving ethically in terms of what we publish online and the information we put online, then it's going to improve AI in the long term. But of course, in the short term, we've got to be cognizant of the fact that it can return wrong stuff because there is wrong stuff on the internet. I mean, when you do Google searches, but not using AI, and you do Google searches for something, not everything that comes back is right, because it references something that somebody put on the internet. And so you can go on there and say, well, that's clearly wrong.
The
And
problem with
yeah, it's
Yeah, the problem with like fixing AI after it's seen the wrong information is that you cannot go back and delete that memory. Like it's not
no,
straightforward because nobody even knows where that lives, because it is, the beauty and the curse of AI is that it builds itself and it teaches itself and learns, and then you don't know in which pocket of that memory that particular
yeah.
information
But
lives. Is just so.
but I think it highlights what you said earlier, that we need to cultivate our critical thinking and our discernment.
Yeah.
And you can, for example, and I've done this, I've gone back to the AI. So I did something yesterday where I was looking for an application, which normally I would have done a Google search and then tried out the application and then gone back and no, that doesn't do exactly what I want, and then do another Google search, try the next one. In this case, I said to one of the AIs, I said, here's what I want to do. And I really outlined the whole brief. And I said, can you suggest some apps that will do this for me on Android system? And it came back and it gave me 5 options. And so I went ahead and tried the first one, and it turns out the first one was actually a perfect match for exactly what I did, which is part of that is that I was probably very good at describing what I needed. But then I went on and I said, I also need to do this. And then it gave me some other things. And all of those things they were overkill. They didn't actually do what I wanted to do. And they were packed with advertisement. So, those apps you get where
Yeah.
you can't actually do what the app does until you go through about 2 minutes of advertising. And so I went back to the AI and I gave it that feedback. I said, hey, these things you've suggested, here's what's wrong with them, here's why they don't work and why they don't match my thing. So I think that critical thinking and then also feeding back the information is quite important.
Yeah, AI is very, very smart. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like, hey, don't adopt AI or anything like that. Even in my company, we use AI pretty heavily, right? So we have tools that we have developed. It's very useful. However, I think we're not yet at a place where we can completely replace the human checks and balances. And this is where I am noticing in the entire industry, people are just like so obsessed with it and they love it and it's great and it's so efficient and it's helpful, of course, but there is very few people who are saying, hey, should we check that this is right? Like, yeah, it's doing its job in the short term right now, but once it knows so much information, can it choose not to help you, or can it choose to give you completely wrong information after you've built all that trust, and then you have then seen then, oh, you're not even double checking and you're just blindly following what AI tells you. So I think for business owners and even like anybody in the world right now, getting yourself familiar and learning AI is critical for your job, for your career, for anything you want to do. Really, you should be familiar with what's going on and how it's happening. There are some courses for free and not for free. But I think also take a step back, be a fan, but also think about, okay, let's double check this and make sure that we are not like 100% blindly following AI.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned the example earlier about video and audio production, and there's so much now that can be done to actually. Videos is a classic one. I see lots of videos these days that are clearly AI generated, and I also see photos that are AI generated. And as a photographer, I kind of got mixed feelings about that as well. But certainly the videos, and I've had instances where my wife's shown me stuff and said, "Take a look at this. This is crazy," and I said, "No, that's AI. It has to be AI." And sometimes there were tell signs. Sometimes it was so good that it was scary, but I could, I knew just that that can't be true. For
Yeah.
example, what was one I saw the other day? It was an animal video, and it was something totally ridiculous where a tiger was carrying a couple of cubs over to a person to look after while the tiger went hunting, or something ridiculous like that. And you say, well, no, no, no. if if I'm a person and I come near the tiger's cubs, that tiger mum is going to
Yeah.
destroy me, right? I'm gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna see me as a threat to its baby. So that's there's but the realism of that video in terms, I mean, it's got massive implications for the film industry, entertainment and so on. But yeah, you have to be really critical, make sure that we're thinking critically to question, can that be right?
Yes. And sometimes, what you're describing is a quite innocent video, but there can be
Well,
some very,
is it though? Is it though? I mean, do you think of your 3-year-old children that see that, and then suddenly they're in a situation like that, and they think it's okay to go up to wild animals' babies,
yeah,
which
that's
is a highly dangerous situation.
yeah, that's true. But what I'm saying is like even if somebody uses for example my image, right? And they start putting videos as if I'm talking, and I'm not even,
Yeah.
I'm nobody. But using some celebrity or somebody famous,
Mm.
that's sort of false information and creating some of those things. The intent, like the AI can be dangerous, right? I think that's where it needs
Mm.
to be regulated, and we need to really understand the implications of all those things. I think people have jumped into the AI world without understanding and thinking 5 steps ahead. What might happen? What could happen? What are the
Mm.
extremes that are possible? And people just kind of like, it's great, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it's really hard to roll back
Yeah.
some of the advances that were made.
Yeah. I haven't done this for a while, but I should do it again. I asked one of the AIs, I said, imagine a scenario where you totally replace all human skills. Humans are redundant, and there are absolutely no guardrails on the evolution of AI. What are some of the implications, and what do you see happening? And it was scary. What came back? It was scary, but you could do an exercise like that using AI, and then say, okay, here are some of the things we need to put some guardrails in place against.
Exactly. What are some things that came up for you?
Uh, well, it said that humans are basically redundant. Like, I didn't say that. I said, if what happens if AI? What's the logical sort of end game if AI continues to develop at the current pace and there are no guardrails? Or I can't remember exactly how I put it, but I kind of said, it's learning itself and so on. And it basically said AI will be able to do anything that humans can. And I said, well, it can't experience pain, it can't experience joy, and it said yes, it can, and it argued that all emotion is calculatable. It's all mathematics, and that AI will learn how to calculate whether it's joyful or whether it's sad or whatever. And yeah, I had a long conversation because I went back and I argued. I said, "Well, no, that can't be right," and it was very logical. I mean, I had no chance arguing logic because it just totally killed me on logical argument. But it was an interesting conversation because I thought you can do things like that and say, well, yeah, that's really scary. But then, okay, let's take some of those scenarios and say, well, what guardrails can we put in place to make sure it doesn't sort of go off in that direction?
Yeah, that sounds very apocalyptic, like one of those movies
Yeah.
that I don't know, I don't remember the name of it, but it's where there was like AI that was all connected, and then there was a super AI that was like controlling all of the connected AI.
Oh, the AI. Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, um, that seems a little bit crazy. But pandemic, like COVID, people thought that that was like, oh, it's in the movies, but it was real. Like we went through it.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, people really, I mean, I can't, I wish I was somebody important in AI that I could like actually do something, but I think those people need to, maybe the government needs to regulate, or there needs to be some, is there even international AI convention, like government body, like United Nations that talks about this digital
Yeah, I'm not sure. There are some regulations in Europe, I know, and Europe tends to lead the way on some of these things.
Yeah.
So there are things happening, uh, but usually with these things, the governments are much slower than the technology develops, and the way AI is developing. I mean, it's just completely the speed at which it's evolving and developing is completely at another level than any technology we've seen so far, isn't it?
It is. It's a little bit shocking and scary, but also looking at some of the clients I have or people that I've worked with, business owners, some of them are, a lot of them are not very technologically savvy. And I feel that even if they are touching base with AI, they're still quite far from sort of understanding how AI is impacting them. And these are, your dentist offices, your construction companies, like the smaller local construction companies, plumbing, and they are more in the day to day, like the restaurants. They are not that much in touch with AI because their businesses are so person to person, face to face, that they're kind of removed from it. But that's where I feel it's important to still bring them to today's world, but also kind of protect them, because if there is some kind of AI revolution that happens that sweeps away and everybody's digital, then these businesses will be sort of left behind. I mean, there's still going to be a lot of like plumbing needed, but imagine if people are just booking everything online. Like, you used to, for a taxi cab, you used to go outside, look for a yellow cab,
Yeah.
or you used to
And
call a number to get the car ready for you. Now you just go to Uber or Lyft or one of those apps, and people don't even do that anymore, majority of people. So that might happen to all of those other businesses, and they need to be prepared. So it's very, very important for everybody to understand where we are and learn AI, but also not to be swept away by it, and to be able to protect your business from digital revolution.
yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of those businesses that you mentioned where that human touch is the core of the business, so whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a taxi service that, I mean, physically transporting you from one place to the next, the I think, there's the human touch there. And I think looking at opportunities of how can I enhance that human touch? How can I spend more on providing that human experience, whether it's providing a fantastic night out at the restaurant or whether it's the trip. It's not just get me safely from A to B, but it's the whole experience that I might then come back and say, well, I want that taxi service rather than any other one later on. So it enhances the competitive advantage, but it's also building that human connection, and the same for a dentist. And what can you do with AI? I mean, this is where I think the power lies and where I think we should be heading towards this. What can I do with AI as the business owner of one of these businesses that takes work off my plate that is keeping me away from providing that human experience? And then if I have these tasks that I then hand off to AI and I save, let's say, 2 hours a day by handing these tasks to AI, reinvest that 2 hours into building those human connections. I mean, that's where I see at the moment a huge opportunity for businesses to differentiate themselves in that space. So whether it's the plumber or whether it's the dentist or whether it's the taxi company, to build that human connection stuff so that as a consumer I say, wow, that experience working with that company was so fantastic. I'll always use those for my taxi trips, or I'll always go to that dentist, or I'll always get that plumber whenever my tap's leaking, because of the experience that I'm having.
I think there's a lot of parts of any business that can be outsourced to AI or to made efficient. So any tasks that are, so for example, a task of booking, scheduling, confirming appointment, rescheduling, they're usually, these companies, they have a person there that dials the phone, calls, sometimes leaves a voicemail. That can be automated by AI. And instead of doing that, that person then who is still working then can provide a better service by responding to customers who are not satisfied, for example. So let's say there's two customers. One is just calling to reschedule, the other one is calling to, you know, complain about an issue. So instead of taking that call, you can have AI handle that, because that's a very easy, straightforward task. But you deal with the human dissatisfaction, try to mitigate, improve that service. So that's where you can win. The other areas, of course, like parts of marketing, parts of sales, can be also automated. So, for example, there are, cold outreach programs now that can email out like 10,000, 20,000 per day to secure appointment for you, depending on what type of service you are. So there's cleaning companies that outreach to local businesses to try to win their business by giving them a quote. Or there is, if you are like a financial advisor, you can always reach out to all these corporate companies, to try to, not them, but like their employees, to try to win their business. So there's a lot that can be done. And if you're a salesperson, so for example, we are building a sales agent for ourselves that will use email, SMS, and phone calls to either receive calls like a receptionist, or to like call back and call specific numbers to try to close the deal, or to pre-sale and prepare them for a conversation with a human. So there's several things that can be done. Basically, what you want to do is for that business owner to focus, if they're selling, only focus on people they're pretty much ready to sign. They just need to see the person behind the business. Or when providing the service, they can be 100% there without looking at their phone. The billing can be also automated, right? The interactions and customer service after the service have been completed, which is, hey, leave us a review so that new people can find us. That's like super important, but nobody really does that, and they kind of just forget. But that's key, not only for other people to trust you, but other people to find you. Google weighs Google reviews very high. We noticed that the day that our clients get a review, their visibility boosts immediately, and they get, I don't know, something like 10 to 20% clients more walking in the door because they just find them more. It's really
Yeah.
key. So all of this is like a full cycle, like you were saying, but the main portion that's human centric is the experience of the service. And that's where it's got to be human driven, and everything else around them can be supported by automation or AI, obviously managed by a human.
Yeah, it's yeah, good summary of and examples of what can be done and where it still stays human. So, well, we've touched on a lot around AI, and we could go on talking AI and digging into your business a little bit as well and your journey. But I'm just aware of the time, and we've gone a long time already. So I think it's a good point to move on to the buzz, our innovation round. As I said earlier, it's the same 5 questions I ask of every guest, and the idea is you give us some insightful, short answers that hopefully will inspire the listener to go and do something awesome today.
So I'm so excited.
Okay, so the first one's around innovation, and it is AI focused. So, what's the most innovative way you've seen AI used to strengthen human relationships?
I think AI has been made efficient. So definitely using in those capacities that we've mentioned, to cut the bureaucracy and bureaucratic repetitive work, and to focus more on the human centric service approach where people get to connect and build trust.
Yeah, and you gave us plenty of examples there earlier, so that's really great. Yeah, and I think having the discipline to say, okay, if I've saved 20% today on this task, that I invest that time back into a human interaction or improving a human experience somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thinking about your own experience, what's the best thing you've done to integrate AI in a way that enhances that human experience or that human connection?
So we use AI tool for local SEO, which in the past had taken us maybe like for each client about 10 hours a week to manage. And now it's 100% automated by AI. So imagine we're saving 10 hours a week and we can actually do more. So in those 10 hours, we achieved about 20 to 30% less doing everything manually, and there was a lot of back and forth. With this AI tool that we developed, it's basically does a lot more work than we were able to do per client, and the results are staggering. We see some clients get 32x return on their investment with no ad spend. And because it's AI and not human driven, it's super cheap. It's a lot cheaper than what we were able to do that manually before. So we definitely use AI in a lot of our services. We're developing ads AI tool that would again lower the cost of our services because of less of the human aspect. And hopefully we can roll that out soon so we can have more people enjoy it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's very practical applications and clearly benefiting your business as well as your clients.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, and the final question is one of differentiation. So, what's the number one thing anyone, any business or any person can do to differentiate themselves today in this age of AI?
Trust, building trust, but also education. So I just came from another conference where I was learning they were teaching about not a funnel, but a cylinder, where instead of having big volume, low conversions, you have low volume but high conversions. So you only market to your ideal clients. And throughout, you don't sell to them, but you deliver education and value and trust and build trust. So I think doing that, every business can win customers because ultimately people want to do business with people, even though
Hmm.
technology is there, and they want to do it with people that they trust.
Yeah, that's a very important point, and so trust is the big differentiator. So yeah, and that's definitely a human connection thing. AI can't build trust for you.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, thanks, Aya. This has been fabulous. Now, where can people find out more about you and about the work you do, and maybe even reach out and say thanks for what you've shared today?
Yeah, they can go to our website, leapengine.co. We're also on social media channels, so they can find me on LinkedIn. Even if they Google Aya Kikimova, they can see my profile is the only one there with that name. And they can find me on Instagram. Same with the company, they can send a direct message. So, we are a small company, which means that we look at every single message, and we do respond. So, yeah, looking forward to hearing from everybody.
Excellent. All right, and as I said, we'll have those links in the show notes, so it'll be easy to click straight through and send Aya a message. So, wrapping our conversation up today, Aya, what's a specific action you think our listeners can take based on our conversation today?
They need to Google AI courses and start learning about AI and start actually implementing some of these tools in their business if they can. And they also need to Google some articles about the, unchecked powers of AI, and just be aware of, what can happen in 5 years, what we can expect. So just being aware and having that knowledge and using AI, making sure that your business is caught up, but also not having 100% reliance on it, will empower them and give them that sort of diversification of their portfolio.
Yeah, excellent. I love that, the diversification of the portfolio. Yeah. So there are very specific actions there. Have a look at what courses are available. At least get some information and read some articles about what are some of the dangers and downsides, as well as the benefits that I think are pretty easy to find.
Yeah, I wish I
All right.
could
Well,
with some specific names and suggestions, but I'm sure if you Google them, Google is still a pretty powerful search engine. You'll find them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much, Aya, for sharing your time and your insights with us so generously today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And as I said at the beginning, I didn't know where it was going to go, and we've sort of taken a journey, and it's been exciting and informative. So thanks again, and all the best for the future. Please do stay in touch.
Thank you. You too, Jürgen. Thanks so much.